The spark of curiosity. He became a pioneer in Mexican hydrogeology, a global collaborator, respected across continents. A leading figure in hydrogeology, in Mexico and beyond. NGWA Life Member Award honoree. Founder of the IAH Mexican chapter. A visionary at the crossroads of science and policy. He inspired generations of students and colleagues. A legacy flowing deep.
Professor José Carrillo Rivera was a pioneering hydrogeologist whose scientific legacy reshaped the understanding and management of groundwater across Mexico and beyond. Born on July 13, 1943 in Contepec, Michoacán, Joel grew up immersed in nature and inspired by a strong family vision of education. This path led him to earn a degree in geological engineering from the Instituto Politécnico Nacional in 1967, supported by a scholarship granted in collaboration with Pemex. Later that same year, he was awarded a prestigious British Council and Ford Foundation scholarships to pursue graduate studies at University College London. He completed both a diploma and a master's degree in hydrogeology by 1968. His early scientific foundation culminated in a doctoral dissertation on the hydrogeology of San Luis Potosí, completed in 1992 at the University of London. This research pioneered the identification of vertical groundwater flow component in multi-layered, geologically complex volcanic systems, marking a turning point in the understanding and management of deep aquifer systems, both in Mexico and beyond. Before his academic journey abroad, Professor Carrillo Rivera had already begun his professional career in Mexico, working with Pemex, the Secretariat of Hydraulic Resources, and firms like Hydrotech and Geomet. From 1971 to 1976, he worked in the Mines Department of the Geological Survey of Victoria, Australia, where he led a landmark study on saline intrusion in the Western Port Basin. His work set a benchmark for coastal aquifer management. Upon returning to Mexico in 1977, he joined the Federal Electricity Commission, where he founded the Geohydrology Group and conducted landmark studies for thermoelectric plants, including the Laguna Verde nuclear plant. These efforts contributed to the early development of sustainable groundwater management frameworks in the country. In 1986, he began his academic career at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM. First at the Institute of Geophysics, followed by the Institute of Geology, and from 1999 onward at the Institute of Geography, where he attained the rank of senior professor and UNAM's highest academic distinction. He was a member of Mexico's National System of Researchers from 1993 and reached level 3, the highest designation, in 2019. Professor Carrillo Rivera stood out for applying Toth's theory of regional groundwater flow systems to the challenging realities of fractured volcanic terrains. One of his outstanding contributions was revealing that high fluoride levels could be mitigated by controlling the wellhead temperature of abstracted groundwater, an insight that reshaped how such systems are understood. His doctoral research in the San Luis Potosí Basin provided the scientific basis for sustainable extraction policies, making it one of Mexico's earliest applications of the regional groundwater flow paradigm to water management. His 1994 co-development of a multi-layer pumping model with temperature correction was a technical milestone in managing thick volcanic aquifer systems. For nearly 6 decades, Professor Carrillo Rivera became a cornerstone of hydrogeological science in Latin America and beyond. He has contributed to nearly 200 scientific publications, having authored and co-authored about 80 journal articles, 9 books, and 33 book chapters, and has delivered more than 120 invited lectures at international events. His work has been widely cited in major reference texts, including Ken Rushton's Groundwater Hydrology, as well as Clark and Fritz's Environmental Isotopes in Hydrogeology. He organized and co-organized more than 52 scientific events. Among the most notable was the 33rd Congress of the International Association of Hydrogeologists and the 7th Congress of the Latin American Association of Groundwater Hydrology for Development, held in Zacatecas in 2004. In 2013 and 2015, he led Mexico's national colloquiums on groundwater in collaboration with the Mexican Senate and other national and international institutions, helping shape dialogue between science and public policy. The resulting proposals laid the groundwork for a 2017 reform initiative to Mexico's national water law, reaffirming his lifelong conviction that science must guide public water management policies. He actively contributed to national and international projects and institutions, including the International Atomic Energy Agency, the European Commission, and both chambers of the Mexican Congress, where he advised on national water policy. He participated in field missions and collaborations across Europe, the Americas, Asia, and the MENA, Middle East, and North Africa region. He also held visiting positions at the University of Oxford and the Hungarian Academy of Sciences. Professor Carrillo Rivera was instrumental in shaping hydrogeological institutions. He served as a member of the International Association of Hydrogeologists Council, founded and presided over the IAH Mexican chapter, and later continued as its Secretary General. He also served as Vice President of Al-Sud and co-founded 2 influential International Association of Hydrogeologists commissions, the Commission on Regional Groundwater Flow and the Commission on Groundwater Outreach to Decision Makers. Committed to education, he mentored more than 23 theses at undergraduate, master's, and doctoral levels, directed over 120 academic courses, and participated in 40 academic committees. His generosity was unmatched. He often sponsored IAH memberships for his students and for early career hydrogeologists from developing countries, ensuring them access to the international scientific community. He also co-authored 4 educational books and produced hydrogeological maps for case studies in Mexico and Australia. As a public communicator, he brought hydrogeology to wider audiences through more than 200 public talks, interviews on radio and television, and articles aimed at the general public. He translated key hydrogeological texts into Spanish, including Michael Price's Introducing Groundwater, and served as editor and reviewer for top journals. He received more than 36 national and international distinctions, including the Life Member Award from the National Groundwater Association in 2012 and an honorary diploma from the Cuban Academy of Sciences in the University of Havana in 2007 for his contributions to environmental protection.
We love paying attention and highlighting the award winners here at the Expo, here with José Joel Carrillo Rivera, Institute of Geography at the University of Mexico. Good to see you.
No, nice to see you. Also, thank you very much for the interview. Well, it's very nice.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to you. Tell us about the award that you received.
Well, it's just simply maybe trying to tell me that I'm getting a little bit old.
Oh, no, I think
that's on one side. Well, on the other thing, I also like to thank NGWA for this kind of recognition to the work I've been doing, which is just simply to try to tell that there is a very important component in the how groundwater moves, which is the vertical flow. And it's not just vertical flow from the top when the water seeps down, but the water when it goes up. Because water really, groundwater, especially when your wells, which are, you know what I'm talking about, when the wells doesn't reach the basement rock, so you produce lots of these vertical flows up, especially when you have very thick aquifer units, like in Mexico we have, talking about 2-3 kilometers thickness, so the wells, they only go 500 meters at the most. So you have a very, very tremendous input of groundwater flow from beneath, which in fact is, you might say, well, that's interesting. Yes, but then it's causing lots of trouble because we have a very high degree of contamination of water moving from below with fluoride, arsenic, and so forth, which causes lots of damage to the people in the long term. And that's not been seen properly. And that happens also in other parts of the world. I think it's most important to realize about it.
Now, your award is a lifetime award. So, how long have you been working in this arena and on similar projects?
Oh, I've been since I finished my MSc. In fact, it was from 1969. I'm working on that. Yeah. So it's I have come to different scenarios, different places. Like I've been working in South America, in Australia, and recently in Morocco. And well, I like traveling around, as you can see.
Yeah, for sure. Well, congratulations.
Well, thanks very much for your time.
Yeah, no, thank you, and thank you so much for your work. And another award winner here at the 2012 Groundwater Expo.
Professor Carrillo Rivera advocated the systemic regional-scale groundwater flow systems approach as a fundamental framework for understanding and managing groundwater. At a time when its potential was largely underestimated, he brought it to the forefront of scientific inquiry and public policy. From Mexico across continents, he helped shift the paradigm, bridging knowledge and legislation, research and real-world challenges. His legacy endures in the knowledge he built, the minds he inspired, and the policies he helped shape. Like groundwater, silent, vital, and far-reaching, his legacy continues to flow beneath the surface of science and society, guiding future generations in the pursuit of sustainable water management. Our deepest gratitude to Professor José Joel Carrillo Rivera for his groundbreaking contributions, the paths he illuminated, and the lives he touched. May his vision continue to inspire us, and may we honor his memory by carrying his work ever forward.
It's Ian Clark here at the University of Ottawa, and thanks so much for organizing this tribute in honor of our dear friend Joel, who was played such a big part in the lives of many people. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to say a few words. I'll say that I first met Joel many decades ago when I was a brand new isotope hydrogeologist starting my work in consulting in Vancouver, and he invited me down to take part in a study that he was orchestrating in the Villa de Reyes Valley. And it was a very interesting project, and I could never thank Joel enough for giving a young isotope hydrogeologist the opportunity to travel and get his teeth into a really interesting project. And that's really when I got to know Joel to begin with. It was a project in 1981, and I have a rock here that I keep on my desk, which always reminds me of my earliest real adventure after my studies for my master's thesis in isotope hydrogeology. And it's a chunk of rhyolite, volcanic rock from the valley that we worked in. And it was here that there was a geothermal project to exploit the hot waters that were generated by the very same processes that created this rock. So this rock always reminds me of our Villa de Reyes project that Joel got me involved in. And I went down for 3 weeks as an Anglophone from Canada, and right into the hot seat. Joel lined me up with 3 young colleagues, hydrogeologists and a driver, and we spent 3 weeks roaming around that valley, sampling wells, sampling springs, and all sorts of sources of water in order to understand, with the isotope analyses that we did, where the water came from to feed the geothermal system, and if we could define the recharge areas. Joel was super enthusiastic and super supportive of that project, and I'll tell you, it left an indelible memory for me over the coming years of field work with a really interesting group of people. I even learned some Spanish at the time and survived quite well. So we had a great time. That was the start of my collaborations with Joel. That work went on to a publication that we co-wrote. And so that was a wonderful opportunity to get another publication for a young guy like myself at the time. Fast forward, I became a professor at the University of Ottawa. And as I'm preparing courses and notes and things, I was invited by Joel to participate in a conference that he was holding at the University of Mexico. And I was to present on isotope hydrology. And that got me into making a bunch of really useful, for me, for teaching, useful slides and graphs and a way of presenting the arcane world of isotopes in groundwater studies, because not everybody understood it. It's hard to explain. And so I spent some time preparing those lecture notes, and it was a wonderful opportunity to see Joel again, collaborate with his colleagues. He was very supportive of my work, and those notes are with me still. I've been using them for teaching isotope hydrogeology to undergraduates and graduate students alike. I saw Joel again about 15 years ago, and perhaps sadly for the last time, because we live so far apart, but it was in Niagara Falls, and he came up for the IAH conference that was hosted in Niagara Falls in Ontario. And we had a wonderful time reuniting, recounting our old stories, and talking about more collaboration and things like that. Well, to make a long story short, the years go by. I've since retired, and but I, had stayed in touch with Joel through his work, and realized the tremendous contributions he's made to the field, and the many colleagues who have appreciated his collaboration. He's a fellow that we'll all miss very much, and are very sad to see his passing. But I want to say, well, thank you so much for your time and effort in supporting a young isotope hydrogeologist and getting him on his way those many, many years ago. Rest well, my friend.
First, let me introduce myself. I am Ken Rushton, a retired civil engineer from the University of Birmingham, UK. I have been involved in groundwater resource studies in the UK and also in many other countries, including the Indian subcontinent. Whilst he was pursuing his PhD studies in England, I met Joel and we had a positive discussion about the flow processes in his study area, the San Luis Potosi aquifer system. Not only did we appreciate our technical discussions, but we also enjoyed each other's company. I have presented post-experience short courses in several countries. In 1993, Joel invited me to run a similar course in Mexico City. All the previous courses had used the English language, but for the course in Mexico, although some of the participants were familiar with English, Joel translated what I said. There was another challenge for me, namely the hours of a Mexican working day. On the opening day of the course, the start was slightly delayed due to the problems of Mexico City traffic. Then, at about 1:30 p.m., we had a break, and Joel told me that we would restart after about 3 hours. Would the participants return for the evening session? They all did, and we worked through the evening. This was a new approach to the working day for me, and it presented a challenge because I usually made detailed preparations for the following day in the evening. As I explained previously, Joel translated all that I said. Then I noticed that on some occasions, the translation was taking a lot longer than my English explanation. So I asked some of the participants who spoke English whether Joel was adding to what I had said. Their answer was yes, but what he added was helpful. Joel's hospitality was excellent. We visited San Luis Potosi. I have just been looking again at the cinefilm which I took during that trip. I discovered a lot about life in Mexico, including the food. I made several more visits to Mexico, including a post-experience course in Merida. It was a privilege to know Joel as an academic colleague and a friend.
Greetings to everyone watching this tribute to the life and work of Joel Carrillo Rivera. I'm Andrew Stone. For 32 years, I was Executive Director of the American Groundwater Trust. I'm honored to share memories of Joel and provide some thoughts about the lasting significance of his hydrogeology career. Since the early 1970s, my professional work has been focused on hydrogeology as a consultant, university teacher, and as an advocate for groundwater education. My friendship with Joel resulted from our shared belief in science as the basis for water resources policy. An additional shared bond is that we are both 1970s graduates from the hydrogeology program at University College London. Joel's concern over Mexico's water policy issues and indiscriminate exploitation of aquifers resulted in several invitations for me to provide an independent groundwater perspective at seminars, conferences, and colloquia in Mexico City, Guadalajara, León, Zacatecas, Monterrey, and San Miguel de Allende. For this tribute, I've selected 6 themes of Joel's career that can provide a framework for his legacy. Firstly, Joel had a firm belief in the importance of groundwater studies in the context of the whole hydrologic system. Secondly, Joel's presentations and publications emphasize that planning for sustainability should require politicians and regulators to consider socioeconomic impacts of laws and policies. Third, Joel had an unwavering belief in the importance of recognizing flow systems when assessing groundwater development potential. His belief in gravitational groundwater flow mechanisms is manifest by his embrace of the 1960s work of Joseph Toth and also by his active involvement in the Regional Groundwater Flow Commission of the International Association of Hydrogeologists. Fourthly, Joel urged hydrogeologists to expand their scientific knowledge of aquifers beyond their academic studies. He believed hydrogeologists should also be active in technical arenas such as well drilling,
well-designed construction, and well-field pumping. A fifth characteristic was Joel's role as a persuasive communicator. He believed that groundwater professionals should be enthusiastic communicators to the public and to decision makers about their work. Sixthly, Joel spoke up about inefficiencies in governance and administration of water. His presentations showed that a lack of technical and scientific knowledge by government, the private sector, or agribusiness resulted in poor and sometimes unjust management of water resources. Joel inspired colleagues and students over many decades of teaching and professional work. However, his ambitions and his personal missions have not yet been fully achieved. It is for us, his friends and colleagues, to honor his legacy by continuing to promote his objectives in our professional work. So what can we do? What should we do? Well, here's a few ideas. Fight for equality over water rights, particularly for Mexico's indigenous people. Recognize that unless we actively promote the importance of science as the basis for management decisions, water will continue to flow uphill towards money. We must advocate for informed regulatory oversight of pumping permits and for the policing of illegal water vampire withdrawals from aquifers and springs. We've got to work to recruit more students to university hydrogeology programs and add socioeconomic and environmental aspects of resource development as part of their required curriculum. A course on groundwater basics should be provided for university engineering programs to show graduates there the need for hydrogeology expertise in resources assessment. It's unfortunate that globally our universities and technical colleges are not producing enough graduates trained in hydrogeology to meet 21st century needs. We must keep trying to implement training and education programs about groundwater for Mexico's water administrators and policymakers. We can join professional water organizations and in particular support the work of the Regional Groundwater Flow Commission of the International Association of Hydrogeologists. We should be connecting with the next generation of groundwater specialists by partnering with school teachers to have water issues included in their students' required curriculum. Beyond my many shared experiences with Joel about water management, we had occasions to relax and socialize. One memory I have is of an evening in Las Vegas on the day that Joel received a Life Member Award from the National Groundwater Association. I recall about 8 people crammed in a taxi with Joel squashed against the door, with his yellow scarf trapped outside the window, flapping like a flag as we cruised along the Las Vegas Strip to the next casino. He had a wonderful collection of scarves. We, the current cadre of groundwater professionals, must be evangelical about the value of groundwater. We must demonstrate that as a profession, groundwater is a meaningful lifetime career solving real-world social, ecological, and economic challenges. Our memories of Joel should be a shining beacon for us all to follow as we commit to pursue the trajectory set by his life and work. To all of you, friends and colleagues, and to Joel's daughter Vivian, it is very sad to say goodbye to such a good man as Joel. Thank you, Joel. Thanks for the happy memories. Bye.
Armed with a geology degree from UNAM and a master's from London, Joel joined the groundwater section of the Victorian Geological Survey in the 1970s. He was responsible for hydrogeological investigations of Western Port Basin, a shallow Cainozoic sedimentary coastal basin where sandy aquifers were being developed for irrigation supplies. Already the potentiometric head of the aquifer system had declined over the central part of the basin by as much as 5 meters below sea level, and as a consequence, there was the threat of seawater intrusion. In response, the government had declared most of this basin a groundwater conservation area under the Groundwater Act 1969, the first in Victoria. Joel's main task was to carry out an intensive hydrogeological investigation of this problem and provide improved hydrogeological analysis, including the construction and monitoring of an observation bore network and experimentation with Haley-Shaw groundwater modeling. He wrote a number of reports and also towards the sustainable and equitable management of the groundwater resource, provided information for the Community Advisory Committee and the Groundwater Appeal Board, which heard cases by appellants for potential irrigation bores. After about 5 years with the Victorian Geological Survey, Joel returned to Mexico and then for postgraduate studies in London, where he gained a doctorate at London. But he never lost contact with Australia, their visits in both directions by Joel and myself, including conferences and guest lectures. Joel was guest lecturer at an IAH meeting in Melbourne and at the master's program in hydrogeology and environmental science at Melbourne University. Indeed, with our shift to education and each of us running master's programs in hydrogeology at our respective universities, UNAM and Melbourne, we continued strong collaboration. I will miss our many discussions, his scientific rigor, his assistance and guidance to students, and passion of regional groundwater flows, and his efforts for this concept to be incorporated in the legislation in Mexico.
I'm Jane Dottridge, a hydrogeologist and Secretary General of the International Association of Hydrogeologists, IAH. I first met Professor Carrillo in the early 1990s when he came to London to submit his PhD. We were both fortunate to benefit from the insights of Professor Ken Rushton at Birmingham, who influenced Currell's focus on the importance of large-scale groundwater flow, and he stayed an active member of IAH's Regional Groundwater Flow Commission ever since. Currell made an important contribution to IAH as one of the founder members of the Mexican National Chapter, which is now flourishing with 75 members, and as organizer of one of the most memorable IAH groundwater conferences in Zacatecas in 2004, which had good science and a fantastic social program. In addition to his research, he was active in influencing Mexican government policy, emphasizing the importance of groundwater. It was a pleasure to see him again in Davos in 2024, still actively contributing to groundwater science, very characteristically dedicated to the profession of hydrogeology.
It's with profound sorrow that I mourn the passing of my dear friend and colleague, Professor Dr. José Carrillo Rivera. I first met him in September 2012 at the first board meeting of the Regional Groundwater Flow Commission of IAH in Niagara Falls, Canada. He was one of the initiators and co-chairs of the Regional Groundwater Flow Commission. In June 2013, he visited our university, the China University of Geosciences, Wuhan, and gave wonderful lectures that left a deep impression on all of us. Subsequently, we had the pleasure of attending many academic events together, such as the Symposium in Xi'an, China, IAH Congress in Roma, Italy, the EGU Assembly in Vienna, Austria, and so on. Dr. Carrillo Rivera was a distinguished hydrogeologist. His contributions to modern hydrogeology, particularly regarding ocean groundwater flow systems, were truly invaluable. His work has had significant impact on hydrogeological research and water management practices across the world. He will be sorely missed by the entire hydrogeological community and beyond.
Buenos días, yo me llamo Juan María Fornés, trabajo en el Instituto Geológico Minero de España, el IGME, y yo conocí al Dr. Joel en el año 2009 en un simposio que organizó el Ministerio de Recursos Naturales y Medio Ambiente de Tailandia y la Asociación de la Fond de Hidrogeólogos sobre el Público tailandés. Precisamente le conocí porque dentro de tanto asiático de repente anuncia una lección magistral de Dr. Joel de México, que era en inglés, pero bueno, y de hecho hicimos una excursión, bueno, una salida de congreso que fuimos a Sukhothai viendo temas relacionados al agua y visitando algún templo budista. Hicimos muy buenas migas el lector Joel y yo. Desde el 2009 hemos tenido mucho contacto profesional y también de amistad. Pues cada 3 años hemos hecho algún trabajo conjunto. Por ejemplo, en el 2012, en el mes de mayo, me invitó a participar en el taller internacional Clima, Sequía y Aguas Subterráneas de Ciudad de México. Y me organizó durante los 8 o 9 días unas conferencias sobre cambio climático, si el origen era antrópico o era por causas naturales, y entre los efectos en las aguas subterráneas, en 3 lugares, que fue en el Centro de Geociencias en Querétaro, de la Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, y luego en San Luis Potosí, tanto en la Facultad de Ingeniería como en el Instituto Potosino de Investigación Científica y Tecnológica, el ICIPI, que fue una experiencia porque fuimos en coche, tuvimos mucho trato, muy buena. En el 2015 me invitó a participar en el segundo coloquio nacional de aguas subterráneas en México, y de ahí me acuerdo que fuimos a Puebla y bueno, no podíamos dejar de tomar el famoso mole poblano. Y en el 2018 me invitó para dar una charla en el Senado de la República de los Estados Unidos Mexicanos, porque estaba ya muy avanzada un desarrollo de las aguas subterráneas en la Ley de Aguas Nacionales, ¿no? Bien, él, por otra parte, él participó conmigo en unos cursos que estoy organizando con la Agencia Española de Cooperación Internacional para el Desarrollo, y vino a Santa Cruz de la Sierra, Bolivia, en un curso de 5 días, para hablarnos de las nociones básicas de hidrogeología y también de la ley de aguas mexicanas, cómo estaba, ¿no? Y cómo se contemplaban las aguas subterráneas. Y en el 2021 en un curso online que también nos habló de los efectos de la extracción de las aguas subterráneas en España. El doctor Joel era un inquieto profesionalmente, ya lo saben ustedes, y yo le invité aquí a España, al IGME, a 2 estancias, una en diciembre del año 2018, una semana, y otra en diciembre de 2019, un par de semanas, para que nos hablara tanto aquí en el IGME como en alguna otra universidad de la ley de aguas y también, bueno, esto que ustedes están claros muy bien del tema de los modelos conceptuales, ¿no? Y los flujos tan importantes, ¿no? En la hidrogeología. Recuerdo que le invité a casa de mis padres para que conociera a mis padres, porque yo les había hablado mucho de Dr. Joel, y todo eso a sobremesa, y le regaló un sombrerito mexicano de plata que todavía conservaban mis padres, y estuvo muy amable, ¿no? Y bueno, por último quería decir, bueno, los temas con los que yo he tratado con él pues ha sido cambio climático y sus efectos en las aguas subterráneas, todo lo relacionado con la ley de aguas en España y sobre todo en México, en la legislación. Es una pérdida para la hidrogeología, él era muy expeditivo y ya nos unen lazos más profesionales, lazos de amistad. Hablamos mucho de muchas cosas, hablamos también de Dios, de la religión, del sitio de la vida, y yo espero que el Dr. Joel reciba con cariño desde el cielo estas palabras. Y nada más, muchas gracias.
Hello, my name's Matthew Currell. I'm a professor of hydrogeology at Griffith University in Australia. Thank you for the opportunity to share a message for this tribute for Dr. Joel. I was very lucky to meet Joel maybe 10 or 15 years ago. We crossed paths at IAH congresses a couple of times, and we traveled together in an event for the Regional Groundwater Flow Commission in China and got to know each other a little there. I always found Dr. Joel's energy, enthusiasm, and passion for the work that he did a great inspiration for me as someone much younger coming through as a hydrogeologist. And he was a great person to spend time with. I really always enjoyed his company. And I thought his work was really important. He did some excellent studies looking at topics like high fluoride groundwater in Mexico City, and many other interesting studies of regional groundwater flow and hydrochemistry and mixing. We had a bit of a special connection because I've spent most of my career in Melbourne, Victoria, and that's where Dr. Joel, I understand, started his career as a hydrogeologist back in the 1970s. And so when we got talking at conferences, he would always give me interesting advice and insights into the groundwater systems he was working on in the Melbourne region, particularly in the Western Port Basin, where both of us conducted research studies, and he had some really interesting insights from his time working in the Geological Survey in Victoria. So, it's with obvious sadness and regret that we hear of Dr. Joel's passing, but also I think it's a really good opportunity to celebrate the work that he did and the wonderful man that he was and the great hydrogeologist and all those amazing contributions that he's made to the hydrogeology community through IAH, through his teaching, through his research, through many international collaborations. So, thank you and best wishes.
Hoy recordamos a nuestro amigo Joel Carrillo Rivera, que era un extraordinario profesor e investigador cuya pasión por la hidrogeología y su compromiso por compartir conocimientos me inspiraron a mirar el mundo y en particular el agua de una perspectiva diferente, más curiosa y sobre todo con más respeto. Soy investigadora en el Departamento de Salud Ambiental y Agua del Instituto Nacional de Salud de Portugal y conocí al profesor en Francia hace 9 años en una conferencia sobre aguas subterráneas. El profesor me invitó a conocer el Instituto de Geografía de UNAM a través de un programa de intercambio académico. Y eso para mí fue una experiencia fantástica porque me encantó estar en UNAM y me encantó también ver lo respetuoso y amable que era el profesor para con todos, los alumnos, los colegas, los colaboradores. Profesor Joel amaba México, amaba su país y amaba a su gente. Más tarde estuve en Portugal, donde hizo una magnífica conferencia en la Escuela Superior de Salud y después mantuvimos siempre el contacto por correo electrónico hasta 2024. Aunque ya no esté entre nosotros, el legado del profesor Joel permanecerá en nuestra memoria y en la de todos aquellos que tuvieron el privilegio de conocerlo. Su sabiduría y su espíritu generoso tocaron la vida de muchos y así que su ausencia seguramente se sentirá. En Portugal tenemos una palabra para esto que no se puede traducir y que es saudade. Termino diciendo que extrañaré al amigo que siempre finalizaba sus mensajes diciendo: cuídate mucho, un abrazo y saludos, Joel. Así lo haré, mi amigo.
Mi nombre es Zuleica Marchetti, soy de Argentina y conocí al Dr. Carrillo en 2007 durante un curso que él vino a dar junto a otros colegas en Corrientes. Para entonces yo empezaba tímidamente mi doctorado y el objetivo era tratar de explicar la vegetación en relación a diferentes variables, entre ellas el agua subterránea. Trabajé en el sistema de humedales del río Paraná, uno de los ríos más grandes del mundo, entre los 10 más grandes del mundo, con lo cual hablar de agua subterránea en un ecosistema tan ocupado por agua superficial era casi una locura para la gente de mi país, para la gente de mi lugar, con lo cual le conté rápidamente a Joel cuál era mi objetivo y empezamos a trabajar de forma muy entusiasta. Yo no tenía ni idea de cómo estudiar agua subterránea Y entonces empecé con Joel a aprender sobre conceptos, sobre metodologías, sobre esquemas, en fin. Empezamos una instancia de trabajo juntos que nos permitió escribir proyectos, salir al campo, escribir artículos. Y a través de todas esas instancias pude conocer la personalidad de Joel, sus preocupaciones, sus sueños, sus expectativas y darme cuenta de la maravillosa persona que fue. Cuando pienso en Joel, pienso en paz. Reinaba en él un escenario de paz que transmitía sin pensarlo. Una expectativa o un sueño, un deseo para con él que sea inmensamente feliz. En el plano o en la existencia que decida volver a estar, que sea sumamente feliz. Espero que estés cosechando mucho o todo lo que realmente diste en esta existencia y que volvamos a encontrarnos en otra, querido amigo.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Antalia González Abraham. Yo conocí al doctor Joel Carrillo allá por el año 2000. Terminando mis estudios de licenciatura, empecé a trabajar con él por puro voluntariado en una pasantía, buscando información sobre los sistemas de flujo y agua subterránea. Desconocía totalmente en ese momento el impacto que iba a tener el doctor en mi vida. Se convirtió en un amigo a través de los años y fue en el 2006 cuando empecé el doctorado que realmente descubrí la maravilla del agua subterránea, el mundo maravilloso del agua subterránea. Se hizo mi director de tesis, le pedí que juntos empezáramos ese proyecto. Recorrimos la Sierra La Giganta, la pasión por el agua subterránea y el agua en los oasis y de dónde venía y toda esa investigación que fue tan importante para mi carrera. Y realmente fueron años maravillosos. Recuerdo que el doctor siempre tuvo palabras positivas, siempre tuvo esa pasión y esa tenacidad por su trabajo y por las personas. Nos presumía, nos echaba porras, nos alentaba todo el tiempo a seguir adelante. Y fue un gran amigo después de graduarme de doctorado. Y me hubiera encantado seguir compartiendo con él esas largas charlas, siempre cargadas un poco de ironía, con un poco de un toque político. Sin embargo, ha marcado mi vida y sigo sus pasos, sigo enseñando los sistemas de flujo del agua subterránea y sigo siempre presumiendo que él fue mi director de tesis y mi gran amigo.
Hola, soy Liliana Peñuela. Fui estudiante del doctor Joel Carrillo Rivera durante mi maestría y doctorado. Yo llegué en el año 2004 a Ciudad de México. Venía de Colombia, mi país natal, y venía solamente a hacer un intercambio de un semestre. Sin embargo, al entrevistarme con los diferentes profesores que daban agua subterránea en el Instituto de Geofísica, fue cuando conocí a Joel, y ahí él me dio la oportunidad de participar y de apoyar en la organización del Congreso de Zacatecas, a lo cual pues yo respondí afirmativamente, ya que le comentaba a él que me gustaba viajar, y él también me abrió su amistad y me comentó que de hecho él había terminado siendo geólogo por su pasión a viajar. A la hora de tener que decidir la carrera, pues él estaba entre arquitectura por su gusto a dibujar y geología, que fue lo que ganó por su gusto a viajar. Entonces, poco a poco fuimos volviéndonos más amigos, y él siempre nos mostraba cariño y afecto a sus estudiantes. Siempre estaba dispuesto a ayudarnos, a enseñarnos todo lo que sabía, que eso es otra cosa, que me sorprendía mucho su sabiduría, porque él podía hablar de cualquier tema y lo hablaba con determinación, con inteligencia, casi que podía compartir un poquito para todos y era muchísimo. Él realmente fue mi padre académico, estoy muy agradecida con él, me enseñó muchísimas cosas y no solamente ligado a lo académico, sino también de la vida. Me gustaba mucho y siempre le admiré también su pasión, la pasión que siempre tuvo por el agua subterránea, por los sistemas de flujo, su interés y ganas de ayudar. Veíamos con los estudiantes, con mis compañeros, a la hora de hacer proyectos que él no tenía interés en ganar dinero, en aprovechar y sacar tal vez beneficio económico a la hora de hacer los proyectos, cosa que a veces también criticábamos o no criticábamos, sino que le decíamos a Joel que pues también sería bueno de pronto modernizar los equipos, y también era chistosa esa parte porque entre chanza y broma decíamos eso y él decía, ¿qué tiene de malo los aparatos viejitos? ¿Qué tienes en contra de los viejitos? Y pues era su forma de ser, que mucha gente lo veía como serio, como, ¿cómo se dirá? Como muy exigente. Y no, él siempre nos contestaba con sonrisas, con chistes, y fue muy divertido el convivir con él. Lamentablemente pues ya se fue, me hubiéramos querido que fuera eterno, una persona así, con tanta vocación y tanta inteligencia. Pero bueno, ya nosotros como estudiantes o en mi parte, pues sí estoy convencida en continuar su legado a mi forma, pero sí está mi interés en continuar brindando la información sobre los sistemas de flujo. Y pues siempre agradecida con el doctor Carrillo, que esté en paz su alma, y pues lo vamos a extrañar mucho.